in a good
And
way.
since I was thinking, since we haven't, met or talked in quite some time, why
Hmm.
don't you sort of share, what your spiritual journey has been on, what has been occupying you with Jodo Shinshu, or maybe you haven't been thinking too much about it, but
No, I
and
have been about it every day. I think about it it's on my mind. It's like the forefront of my mind every day, actually. To like, I'm not just saying that. It literally is constantly on my mind, in one way or another type of thing, except
yeah,
like work, if I'm focusing on work, or do you know what I mean? But a lot of the time it's on my mind. And it's not me trying to do that. It just is naturally on my
mm,
mind an awful lot. I would say our sessions have helped a lot, where just like I think I've said this before, but just getting the everything kind of on the table as much as I have
mm,
has
yeah,
moved it, shifted it,
yeah,
a lot. Um, and
hmm,
like things like what I said about, you know, where my mind before was trying to calculate so much of, well, how
mm,
does this work? How does that fit? How does this, where it's not like really feeling the need to do that anymore. It's just kind of like, well, somehow this is true. I don't really need to
mm,
go into too much detail with how it's true. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like the need before, where I was like, well, everything had to fit exactly. And I had to,
yeah.
see what I mean? It had to reconcile this with that. And like, that's relaxed quite a bit, you know,
Well,
like
that's
I,
a good thing, I think. Yeah.
um, I'm more, I can more accept things as what the teaching is giving,
Mm,
what Shakyamuni taught
right.
us, what the Dharma masters have taught us, and what Shinran and Renyo have, taught. I
Mm,
don't need to, you know, try to reconcile every single thing with what my monkey mind, is pulling from the modern world, if you see what I mean. Do you see
definitely,
what?
definitely. Well, that's kind of what Kobai Sensei said in his book, where there's a point where we kind of have to let go of the need to intellectually, scientifically,
Yeah,
know the facts about, or the truth about everything. And he says there is understanding, but it's spiritual understanding. So we're moving from the dimension of science, which is, you know concerned with figuring out, what's on the other side of the galaxy and so on and so forth, and we're moving into the world of religion, which is more of an inner spiritual
mm-hmm.
world, right? So the understanding, and I kind of would say, like, two, one example would be, um, when you get on a ship and you take a cruise, right? You don't need to know all of the scientific workings of buoyancy and the ship being in the water, and the displacement and how the ship is being held up by the you don't need to know all that stuff in order to get on the ship, right, and trust that it will get you to the destination. And if you think about Buddhism, the point of Buddhism, right, is, well, like Nagarjuna Bodhisattva says, it's the ferry that takes us to the other shore of
Yeah,
nirvana. So
yep,
we don't have to, and especially in Jodo Shinshu, um, entrusting to the working of Amida's vow is, we don't have to conceive every little aspect of it. In fact, Shinran Shonin is constantly telling us, reminding us, that the working of Amida, and Amida, itself, Amida Buddha, is inconceivable.
yeah,
Which means that
yeah,
the working of Amida in the vow is beyond what we can conceive of. So to try to, measure it all out, we're
exactly.
just going to end up frustrated, because our brains, our minds are conventional ways of thinking, clouded as they are by, obscurations, bono, kleshas in Sanskrit,
Yep.
delusions, they
Yeah.
don't, they can't reach the wisdom of the Buddha. And Shinran Shonin, he's constantly saying this throughout his writings. So yeah, like you said, it's
Define
there's
that's finally.
you reach, yeah.
Go ahead.
Go
Please.
ahead.
No, no, you continue with your thought, and then I'll say.
No,
Yeah.
I was just going to finish up and say, you reach, like Kobai Sensei says, there's a point where you have to let go of the calculating, all your calculations. It's like in the beginning of the Yogemon, the creed that we recite in the Nishi Honganji by Rinyo Shonin. Moro moro no zogyo zashu, jiriki no kokoro furistete, which means, letting go, abandoning all of the different practices and calculations in the self-power mind,
Yeah.
and then embracing it. And now, of course, we can't just throw all that away through our own power, right? We don't wake up and say,
Yeah.
I'm not going to calculate anymore. I'm done with all that. It's a like we've talked about before.
Yeah.
It's a
Exactly.
process, right? And
Yep.
that's where the chomo and the listening deeply comes in, is as we immerse ourselves in listening and in contemplating and hearing the Dharma, gradually, the Dharma, because it is imbued with the other power of the Midas vows, it works on us. And it's like the thing about the sun drying out clothes from top to bottom. The power of the sun is working on us to gradually open us to receiving the light of compassion and wisdom, which is infinite. That's why we call Amida the Buddha of infinite light, or infinite wisdom and compassion. So, go ahead. So, what were you gonna?
It seems like that's finally sinking in, sort of, from Amida. Some of it's that's finally penetrating. Some of the light is penetrating.
Yeah.
To the point, where it's just a bit, easier to just, not try to figure it all out all the time, and just try to understand the teaching as it is, and just say, this is the teaching, this is what has been given, because we're bamboos, so, it's kind of pointless to it's given to us in such a way that we can understand it. So why not leave it alone? like I don't know better than the Buddha, either of them, any of them. I don't know better. So why? The Shakyamuni has presented the teachings about Amitabha in this way, and the Dharma masters have developed that and presented to us in this way. So why do I need to, it just, do you see what I mean? It's like, what am I going to, am I going to make it better? Than they did? Am I going to?
The only thing, exactly. You don't need to improve on it. But the only thing I would say is, you don't want to fall into a kind of non-reflective or blind, what sometimes we call, blind faith, right?
Yeah.
Where you're not actively engaging. And this is a sort of a balance you have to walk. But
I was going to say, it seems a fine line to walk with it, like that river,
Yeah.
But anyway,
for example, if you're, let's say you happen to be interested in the origins of Mahayana Buddhism and the Mahayana Sutras, and you're studying all of that, and you're coming up with, or you're studying different ideas of how Mahayana Buddhism arose from a historical religious studies perspective, right? Well, that's all great, right? Like, I mean, and you're going to learn all kinds of things about how Mahayana Buddhism arose.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there are people who study, who maybe have an interest in these things, like in Buddhism from like a scholarly
Uh,
standpoint, but who don't like personally engage with it in a spiritual sense. So there is that distinction. You have to sort of, how to say, make it your own.
yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. It's yeah, I don't want to fall either into the trap of um oh no, I have no more questions and I have no more doubts, and I have,
Mm,
like I perceived myself before. So it's kind of
yeah.
good, that experience, because now I'm quite um reticent or on guard a bit about that.
Mm,
Uh, so that kind of balances it, a
yeah.
bit.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not going to suddenly go, oh yeah, I have Shinjin. I'm not gonna, I just am
Yeah.
not gonna come for me.
Exactly. It's not something you decide anyway. Right? It's not something
Exactly,
that we decide. I should say
exactly.
it's something that Amida that comes from Amida through the natural working of the power of the vow. So that's exactly right.